Every day, we live under invisible chains. From the moment we wake, society whispers to us what to value, what to pursue, what to fear. We chase success, approval, wealth, or recognition, believing they define our worth, but in reality, they only deepen our dependence. Ancient philosophers have long recognized this trap. Diogenes, for instance, rejected everything that society deemed important: wealth, status, comfort. He lived with nothing but a cloak, a staff, and a jar, and yet, he was freer than kings. Freedom, he showed, is not having more, it is needing less. Albert Camus went further, teaching that life itself has no inherent meaning. The universe offers no roadmap, no guaranteed reward. Most people waste decades searching for purpose outside themselves, but Camus argued that true liberation comes when we accept the absurdity of existence and create our own meaning through conscious experience, moment by moment. Nietzsche exposed the danger of conformity, labeling it herd morality. To truly live, he said, we must stop obeying rules imposed by others, stop seeking approval, and become the creators of our own destiny. The Übermensch, Sartre emphasized responsibility. We are not passengers of life, we are the authors. Each choice, each action shapes who we are. Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics taught us to focus only on what we can control and ignore everything else, freeing our minds from unnecessary suffering. Lao Tzu and Taoism remind us to flow with life, to act without forcing, and to embrace the natural rhythm of existence. Buddha showed that the self is impermanent, that attachment to identity causes suffering, and that inner peace arises when we observe and detach from transient thoughts. Together, these philosophies form a roadmap, not to escape life, but to master it, reclaim freedom, and live fully on our own terms. Diogenes lived in a world obsessed with status, wealth, and reputation, yet he saw through the illusion of all social constructs. He rejected material possessions, not out of poverty, but as a deliberate choice to reclaim autonomy over his desires. Living in a simple jar, owning only a cloak and a staff, he demonstrated that freedom is not something granted by society, but something claimed internally. He mocked authority, exposed the hypocrisy of the powerful, and reduced life to its barest essence, harmony with nature and independence from societal expectations. The encounter with Alexander the Great illustrates his radical perspective. While the conqueror offered him anything he desired, Diogenes asked only for sunlight, showing that the truest power lies in self-sufficiency, not accumulation. Today, in a world dominated by consumerism, social media validation, and the constant pursuit of approval, Diogenes' example is more relevant than ever. Freedom begins when we identify what we truly need versus what society tells us we should want. By stripping away superficial attachments, we gain clarity, resilience, and the capacity to live authentically. His philosophy teaches that liberation is not found in external circumstances but in mastering desire itself, knowing that true independence comes when we no longer allow possessions, prestige, or opinions to dictate our lives. Diogenes invites us to examine our own attachments, question what we chase, and consider the possibility that the simplest life may be the most profound. Albert Camus taught that life, at its core, has no inherent meaning. The universe does not provide a roadmap, and no cosmic purpose guarantees success, happiness, or fulfillment. Most people spend their lives chasing external validation, careers, relationships, or achievements, believing that these things will give life significance. Camus argued that this search is futile, but within that realization lies immense freedom. By accepting the absurdity of existence, we no longer need to wait for meaning to appear externally, we become the creators of our own purpose. This does not mean life is chaotic or without structure, rather, it is an invitation to fully inhabit the present and engage intentionally with every experience. Whether it is observing a sunrise, immersing oneself in a craft, or cultivating relationships, the moments themselves hold value, independent of their greater purpose. For modern life, where screens and constant comparison amplify stress and distraction, Camus' philosophy provides clarity. Stop chasing illusions of significance dictated by others, and focus on the experiences that resonate with your authentic self. True liberation comes from recognizing that meaning is not given, it is made, moment by moment, choice by choice. Nietzsche challenged humanity to rise above conformity and the weight of inherited morality. He called out the herd mentality, where people blindly follow social norms, obey authority, and live for external approval. According to Nietzsche, such lives are not just limited, they are wasted. To live fully, one must embrace the concept of the Übermensch, or superhuman, a creator of values and author of their own destiny. Becoming the Übermensch requires radical introspection, questioning inherited beliefs, discarding expectations that do not resonate, and embracing one's passions, desires, and even failures as integral to growth. It is about defining success, ambition, and morality for oneself rather than accepting prepackaged ideals. Nietzsche emphasized struggle as essential. Hardship, rejection, and suffering are the forge through which strength and authenticity are born. In a modern context, where societal pressures dictate careers, appearances, and behavior, Nietzsche's teachings remind us to stop living according to scripts written by others. The Übermensch is not a distant ideal but a practical path. Through courage, reflection, and deliberate action, anyone can rise above conformity, cultivate their own principles, and live a life aligned with their deepest truth. Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialism centers on radical responsibility. Unlike traditions that posit preordained purpose, Sartre emphasized that humans are born as blank slates, free to define themselves through action. Most people avoid this responsibility, falling into bad faith by blaming circumstances, following routines, or deferring decisions to societal expectations. Sartre challenges us to recognize that every choice, even the seemingly small ones, shapes who we become. Changing the language we use is one practical step. Replace "I have to" with "I choose to," acknowledging our power and accountability. Beyond mindset, action is essential. Self-definition occurs in doing, not merely thinking. Whether it is quitting a job, pursuing a passion, or confronting fear, every deliberate act is an assertion of autonomy. Sartre's philosophy equips modern individuals with the understanding that waiting for permission, approval, or external guidance is a form of self-imposed imprisonment. By consciously owning decisions, cultivating self-awareness, and taking intentional steps, we reclaim agency over our lives. Life becomes a canvas, and we, the artists. Freedom is not hypothetical, it is enacted, moment by moment, through the choices we courageously make. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most remarkable Stoic philosophers and the ruler of a vast empire, exemplified the practical application of philosophy in the face of chaos. Unlike abstract theorists, Marcus taught that true freedom and inner peace arise not from controlling external events, but from mastering one's mind and perspective. Life is filled with circumstances beyond our control, wars, betrayal, illness, and misfortune, but the Stoics argued that suffering does not come from these events themselves, but from our judgment of them. Marcus repeatedly emphasized that human beings possess the unique capacity to choose their responses, and it is in this choice that power resides. By focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, intentions, and actions, and disregarding what is not, we can maintain stability, clarity, and tranquility even in turbulent times. This principle is not just philosophical abstraction, it is a deeply practical framework for modern life. Consider the constant barrage of news, social media, and external pressures that shape daily experience. We are conditioned to react emotionally, to feel stressed over minor inconveniences, and to seek validation for our choices. Marcus Aurelius' teachings provide a blueprint for liberation. Recognize the boundaries of control, confront fear and desire with reason, and act according to virtue rather than impulse. One of his most effective practices was reflection and journaling. By recording his thoughts, analyzing emotions, and challenging irrational fears, he cultivated a disciplined mind capable of facing any trial. In today's context, this could mean journaling about work stress, personal conflicts, or self-doubt, and examining which elements are truly within your power to change. Stoicism does not promise a life free of obstacles, but it equips us to navigate them with composure, resilience, and intentionality. Through conscious control of perception, the application of reason, and alignment with enduring principles, individuals reclaim their energy, focus, and autonomy. The world will always present challenges, but the Stoic mind transforms adversity into opportunity, turning setbacks into lessons and trials into growth. Marcus Aurelius demonstrates that mastery of the mind is the cornerstone of self-mastery, and the ability to live fully, freely, and in harmony with one's own values, regardless of circumstance. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher and founder of Taoism, presents a vision of life that contrasts sharply with the relentless striving and forceful control characteristic of modern existence. At the heart of Taoist philosophy lies the concept of the Tao, or the Way, which represents the natural order and rhythm of the universe. Lao Tzu teaches that much of human suffering arises from resisting this flow, attempting to control outcomes, push against circumstances, and force life to conform to our desires. The principle of Wu Wei, often translated as effortless action, or non-forcing, encapsulates this approach. It does not advocate passivity, laziness, or avoidance, rather, it encourages intelligent adaptation, sensitivity to context, and alignment with natural processes. Imagine a river navigating a rocky terrain. It does not struggle against the stones, it moves around them, creating its path without conflict, yet gradually shaping the landscape itself. Lao Tzu urges us to emulate this effortless power. In practical terms, this means letting go of rigid expectations, external pressures, and obsessive control over every aspect of life. When a project fails, when relationships falter, or when plans go awry, the Taoist perspective asks us to adapt and find alternative paths rather than resist or become frustrated. Flowing with life requires acute awareness and patience. It is about understanding the natural rhythms of circumstances and leveraging them to move forward efficiently. This philosophy also extends to personal growth. True wisdom emerges not from constant forceful action, but from observing, listening, and responding appropriately. Modern applications are abundant. In business, innovation often arises when individuals respond creatively to obstacles instead of forcing preconceived solutions. In personal life, stress diminishes when we relinquish attachment to outcomes and embrace the process of living. Lao Tzu's teachings invite introspection. Examine where you are resisting, forcing, or clinging unnecessarily, and explore how you can move in harmony with circumstances rather than against them. By doing so, we cultivate resilience, reduce unnecessary suffering, and achieve a sense of freedom that comes not from dominance over the world, but from attunement to it. In essence, Lao Tzu provides a map for living that is both profoundly simple and deeply effective. Align with the flow, act without forcing, and life itself becomes a powerful, graceful, and liberating journey. Buddha's teachings challenge the very foundation of how we perceive ourselves and the world. At the core of his philosophy lies the recognition that the self is impermanent, ever-changing, and not the fixed entity we often assume it to be. Buddhism introduces the principles of anicca, or impermanence, and anatta, or non-self, revealing that everything we identify as me, our thoughts, emotions, memories, and even our bodies, is in constant flux. Most people cling to these identities, defining themselves by roles, accomplishments, or social labels, believing that stability lies in maintaining a fixed sense of self. Yet, according to the Buddha, this attachment is the root of suffering. By holding on to what is transient, we create fear, anxiety, and resistance to change. Real liberation, he teaches, comes from observing life and ourselves without attachment, cultivating mindfulness, and recognizing the fluidity of experience. Meditation is a practical tool for this insight. When we sit quietly and observe our thoughts, we realize we are not our thoughts, we are the witness to them. This shift in perspective grants immense freedom because it breaks the illusion that external events, people, or outcomes determine our happiness. Modern life, with its social media comparisons, career pressures, and identity labels, amplifies the suffering caused by clinging to a static self. Buddha's teachings offer a counterbalance. By letting go of rigid attachments, by seeing ourselves as processes rather than fixed beings, we reclaim control over our inner state. We begin to respond to life with clarity and equanimity, rather than reacting impulsively to fear, desire, or judgment. Furthermore, this philosophy encourages compassion, for ourselves and others, because we understand that everyone is navigating impermanence. True freedom, according to Buddhism, is not achieved by changing the world to fit our desires, but by changing our relationship with the self and our experiences. When we release the need for external validation, stop identifying with temporary roles, and embrace the constant flow of change, we unlock a state of profound inner peace. In doing so, we are no longer shaped by transient circumstances but by the strength of awareness, presence, and the ability to act from a centered, unshakable self. Buddha's teachings remind us that liberation is always available, not in possessions, achievements, or external status, but in the understanding and acceptance of who we truly are beneath all labels and illusions. After exploring the wisdom of Diogenes, Camus, Nietzsche, Sartre, Marcus Aurelius, Lao Tzu, and Buddha, one truth becomes clear: freedom, meaning, and self-mastery are not handed to us, they are created. Each philosopher offers a unique lens for navigating life, yet their teachings converge on a single principle: the power to live fully resides within you. Diogenes reminds us that liberation begins by stripping away unnecessary attachments and recognizing that wanting less can create the deepest freedom. Camus teaches that life's inherent absurdity is not a limitation, but an invitation to craft our own purpose, to engage with each moment intentionally. Nietzsche challenges us to rise above conformity, to define our own values, and to embrace struggle as the forge of personal greatness. Sartre empowers us to take radical responsibility for our choices, understanding that every decision shapes the person we become. Marcus Aurelius shows that by mastering our mind and focusing on what is within our control, we can remain resilient and composed in the face of adversity. Lao Tzu encourages us to flow with life, to act without forcing, and to attune ourselves to the natural rhythms of existence. Buddha reveals that true peace comes from understanding the impermanent and fluid nature of the self, letting go of attachments, and observing life without clinging. Together, these teachings form a roadmap for a life lived on your own terms, disciplined yet flexible, purposeful yet free, aware yet unburdened by external judgment. The question now is simple but profound: will you continue to live according to scripts written by others, or will you step into the role of the creator of your own life? The path is yours to walk. Begin by examining your attachments, questioning inherited beliefs, taking ownership of your choices, and aligning with principles that resonate with your deepest self. The world will always offer expectations, distractions, and pressures, but the moment you live intentionally, guided by self-awareness and philosophical insight, you reclaim your power. You are not defined by society, by circumstance, or by fleeting labels. You are the architect of your life. And that is the greatest freedom of all.